Welcome to the Life in Flow podcast.
The three of us, Yulia, Polina, and Irina, are exploring what life in flow and flow in life is.
Join us as we experiment, test our diverse hypotheses, and have fun in the process.
Will we find an answer?
This isn't just an intellectual discussion. We're co-creating a shared field beyond words. We're attuning to what emerges moment by moment so that the conversation itself becomes a group flow experience.
And we invite you to become an active participant in this experiment. There will be pauses and moments of silence. We leave them on purpose because this is where magic happens.
Go beyond the intellectual information. Listen with your whole body and notice how your somatic experience shifts in the process. Share with us what reveals itself in the space where mind, body, and energy flow together.
Welcome to this next episode of Life in Flow podcast. I'm Polina. I'm facilitating today, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Yulia and Irina. And today, hello ladies, today we are going to be diving into what is it like to listen without filters, including radical acceptance, welcoming, and how does it affect the flow between us? It's something that I've been wondering about. Do we actually have to listen well to find group flow? Or can flow arise even when we're judging, comparing, or planning our reply? We've all felt both, right? Those spontaneous, overlapping conversations that somehow flow. And those moments when listening is soft and deep, and the whole field between us changes. So today, we're exploring what happens when we listen through filters and expectations, especially the perfect version lens, versus when we listen with radical acceptance and welcoming. And we'll keep this experiential as we usually do. So if you're listening in at home, you'll get to try these practices with us. Please join in. Okay, so we're going to start with a quick, creative little warm-up game to loosen us up and loosen up the flow in real time. We are going to co-create a story one word at a time. Very simple. We're going to go in a circle. On my screen, it's me, then Irina, then Yulia. Let's maybe do it that way. And I'm going to say the first word, and then you say the next, and then the next person says the next. There's no planning. This is totally, it could be free and creative and crazy and wacky. It doesn't matter. Total freedom. Just let's see what we come up with. What wacky story we'll come up with one word at a time. Yeah.
So, we are saying the word to continue the sentence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So we're just going to try to create some kind of story with one word at a time. We'll go a few circles, a few rounds.
Okay.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I will start. Cows.
Flow.
Did you say low?
Flow.
In.
Water.
Until.
They.
Poop.
In.
Air.
Shooting.
Rainbows.
All over.
The meadow.
Tomato?
Yeah.
And
Rain.
Streams.
with
Stars.
Shooting.
joy
Love.
Empathy.
upon
The earth.
I love it. Okay, cool. Now we're going to do one more round, but this one is going to be a little bit different. This time, I'd like us to try to actually ground the story in reality. Keep it coherent, realistic, something that could actually happen.
Happen where? In which reality?
In this
yeah.
reality, on Earth, in this day and age,
Are you sure that we're sharing
2025.
the same reality?
Exactly, yeah.
Let's try to share this normal reality,
Oh,
okay?
okay. Let's
Okay.
try to be down to earth.
Okay. The banker
Checked
They count.
discovering
discrepancies
Of a million.
deciding
to hide
It in the pocket. Sorry.
he carefully
planned
An escape.
stuffing
the cash
Into.
his pocket.
but
The rain.
Doused
into the pocket
Distributing.
the cash.
through the mud.
Those were not very good pants he was wearing. Not very expensive for a banker. The cash just flowed down.
No, I mean, they were good enough because he was able to
Off $1 million of cash.
cash $1 million of bills into this pants. So maybe that was the problem.
So we didn't do a great job in terms of making this believable because, you know, in a finance firm, a banker, there wouldn't be cash that he has access to, $1 million of it. But that's okay. The point of this exercise was I wanted to ask you what changed in your body or your attention when we tried to keep it more realistic. Just consider it for a sec. Did you notice more effort, more planning, a little bit of tightening or tension in the body? Listeners, check in with yourselves as well. When you were listening to the first few rounds, did you feel more open? And then when the realistic round came on, did you feel any changes in terms of tension or pressure or anything in terms of what you were experiencing in the field? Yes, Yulia?
So when you said that now we're gonna come up with a realistic story, my
Yeah.
first reaction, I think, was to contract inside of me.
Mm,
It have to be realistic, but why?
yeah.
But then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I'm playing along. And then by playing along, I think I just started to feel good. And then it was very tempting
to support the good feeling by leading it in a more pleasant direction.
A whole arc of flow. I love it. Ira, how about you?
I think I shared the Eula story in the sense that indeed there was some kind of resistance in the body when you announced the condition. But then during the game, I can't say that I felt myself more restricted than in the first round. Although I do I do agree that usually it happens. Usually when you put on the condition that it has to fulfill certain requirements of the reality, it does put more pressure on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And funny enough, I actually knew what the exercise was going to be. And as I was giving it to you, I myself felt a bit of tension and a bit of compression, just kind of, I guess the system was gauging how you two might respond and went into a little bit of a compression that I had to then expand around to also come back into flow. So even if someone knows what's coming, it could still happen, right? What's really cool is catching those moments to see like what is this causing for me, and what do I need to do to come back to a flow, whether the flow is here or there, right? It doesn't matter where the flow is, but like how to get back into it. Anything else anyone wants to share?
What came to me just now is that it also, like, what I felt that helped me to flow rather easily with the story the second time without really, like, what to come up with is that the prompts that I was receiving from both of you were really like supporting the story, so it was easy to come up with an answer that was rather realistic. I know that you didn't like the cash part, but I do find that it's always a part of the banking not robbery, but the not honest bankers and all the stuff who are escaping. There's always cash in the not in the
Well,
pockets.
yeah,
Normally
if
they're
it's
not
an
in the
actual bank.
pockets.
Yeah. If it's an actual bank, that's true. I guess in my head, I was thinking like the financial companies that we used to work for, not an actual bank. Like they wouldn't really have cash. Not the ones I worked. They didn't. But I guess somewhere they would have had cash. I don't know. But you're right. It makes it easier if we kind of know what the setting is, right? The reality. It actually in some way makes it easier to come up with words. Whereas when it's a little bit more out of the box, even though there's freedom there could also be, did you notice? Like there could also be a little bit of pressure to make it funner, cooler, more out there.
That's true. That is actually one of the hurdles of the creative thinking is that people are putting too much pressure on themselves that if I come up with idea, I need to come up with really very extraordinary original idea. And that is when I discovered the concept of suspending judgment, it really took enormous weight off my shoulders because I realized, really, I don't have to come up with original idea. Just the idea would be good.
Yeah.
Your time.
Go ahead. You.
Actually, the rule is you cannot come up with jokes. Like the goal cannot be to come up with jokes. So
is when it is the rule of
while improving. I mean,
okay.
they happen, but it's not the goal to come up. The goal is to listen and to hear and to be in the moment with the partner. And as soon as the pressure is there to come up with the joke, and of course, for many people, including myself, the pressure keeps coming and keeps coming, and you brush it off, it keeps coming. But then it's like, the flow gets broken.
So really I think what all of us are pointing to is that the way we listen, whether there's judgment or not, right? And how we relate to the tension that gets created in the body based on how we are attempting to listen, right? All of those things mix into our ability to flow together and our ability to be in flow even with ourselves and with another person, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think, at least in what I was talking about, I was not refer myself so much to the part of the listening, how I was listening to you, but really like this, the permission for the answer to emerge, like how I was relating to myself in the process.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I guess we could also just ask ourselves what the definition of listening is, because sometimes the definition of listening is listening, or being aware of auditory signals. But listening can also mean being really present, active listening, where you are just in the process and in co-creation in the moment.
Yeah, receiving.
Yes, exactly. You're actually jumping ahead. I love it. It's already naturally happening. That's true. And it seems that one of the most important factors in the way we connect to ourselves and others is not something we really talk about. For example, it would be really helpful sometimes to ask another person, how would you like me to listen to you? Do you want me to listen to you just to hold space because you need to get some stuff out and you don't want any advice? You don't want any responses. You just need another human to hold space and witness what you're going through, right? Or do you want me to listen and help you identify where you're stuck? Be another way of listening. Do you want me to listen in a way where we could strategize and come up with solutions? Like, how do you want me to listen to you? What's coming up as I paint this picture?
I think that would be if we integrated these kind of skills in our day-to-day interactions, I think it would definitely be like an advanced level of relating. My question is, in the majority of the cases, like most of the time, does the person who receives this question, how do you want me to listen to you? Does this person really know how do they want to be listened to?
Exactly.
I'm not sure.
Exactly. So we're seeing maybe something that hasn't been clarified on both ends. Both the listener, right? They could ask that question or shift into different modes of listening and how. And also a person that wants to be heard, like that identification of what is my need or what is my want, and also to give yourself permission to ask another human, can you please listen and just hold space for me? I don't want any advice. I don't want you to even remember what I'm saying. I just need you to hold space, like holding about. Alison Armstrong says, it's holding like the basket. Someone's holding the basket and someone's just getting stuff out, and there's no need to even remember what the person is saying. But it really changes the quality of both how the listener is showing up, right? How they're listening, and also it changes the quality of the speaker and how they can get stuff out. Go ahead.
I think even before you like giving oneself this permission to ask, for what I need. The most important is that this question itself is an invitation to the person to become aware. What do I actually want from the other person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you want? What do you need? Yeah, like I have no idea. Okay, but now I need to become aware of myself, and
Mm-hmm.
that is the greatest shift.
Mm. Yulia, where are you now? What's coming up for you? I wonder if this is something becoming apparent just from this little brief chat we're having?
I'm just wondering how many things need to be in place for this kind of interaction.
Mm.
Because, of course, I could imagine myself doing this radical ask. Can you just be there for me, hold space? And I will be just like offloading and offloading and offloading.
Mm.
And you just be there. But then it opens the door to many questions for me as well. Because I
Like?
know, and maybe it's because I've been there many times and I know that when I really just offload my stuff, there are not many people that I've met so far who would be able just to hold it, but not just to hold the basket, but really to create that space
Mm.
where I can feel safe in
Mm-hmm.
offloading myself, also that I am not loading them with my stuff. Because
Mm-hmm.
I had been loaded myself too often, so I know how it works. So I think it's such a complex and exquisite interaction that requires skill and constant presence to each other on both sides.
Yeah, I love that. So, like, you're almost, to me, it sounds like you're describing a certain respect for one another, that this is what we're doing. But as you're offloading, the intention is not to offload on the other person, because that would actually create energetically a lot of stuff, right? Would probably trigger a lot of stuff for the other person as well. But you're saying, with respect and permission, because we have made this agreement about how we're going to show up, right? In me sharing and you listening, there's also certain boundaries. There's certain things we're going to respect in the way we do it that would allow for this exchange to be as exquisite as how you're describing. Am I getting that right?
Yes, you're getting this right. And now something comes to mind
Mm-hmm.
that an exception to, in my opinion, or in my experience, like how careful you need to be offloading. The exception if it's a group that's able to hold the space. Because I've
Mm.
been to one such experience of offloading where there were like 15 people, over 15 people, and we were all directed non-verbally to hold that space. But there was also
Mm-hmm.
someone who was also holding our space, I guess. And that person
Mm-hmm.
was able to offload in a way that like just like went into space and wailing and physically doing stuff. Yeah. So came to mind.
Yeah. I still, and still, if we tune in to the difference of, if you are offloading with the intent of just getting it out and someone is just presencing, right? Just holding space for you, that kind of changes the internal prompting system if you tune in, versus if you're offloading, but you haven't made the agreement that the other person doesn't even need to remember what you're saying. So if the other person thinks, oh, maybe I'll need to remember, maybe I'll need to respond. I'm not sure what does this person need? What does this person need? Like the question that's running in the back of their head, right? As they're listening could very easily change the entire energy of the interaction, both for the speaker that's trying to offload, but also the listener.
I think what you're touching upon is that like this kind of relating and interaction definitely requires from all of us developing new set of skills, and it requires practice, and it's not only about like being able to hold space, like to sustain and to know how to vent out the things that you need to offload, and how to hold it so it would not create the conflict. But it also requires, again, this, it's not just respect to each other, but really knowing how to do it, knowing how to like create this agreement, how to ask this question, how to ask for permission. Okay, can I do this? And can you just listen to me? Or I need this from you. And not taking for granted the other person, and really treating with respect the energy of the other person, the boundaries of the other person, and mine own. So it's, you ask the question, how many things need to be present for this to happen? So, and indeed, a lot of factors it needs to coincide for this process to flow, and it requires practice, and it requires, I would say, deliberate practice. So like we need an intention from all the participants to like willingness to learn this new interaction. And it just came to my mind. I don't know where it would lead to, but I wanted to mention that I just remembered when I was starting the system coaching, and we were really like exploring how systems work and how to coach not the members of the system, but the system itself. This element of venting out was the necessary step in the process always, because until these things that bubble me up, they are out there, until they're voiced out, and I just release this steam out myself. Sometimes no more constructive steps are possible towards any transformation of the system level. So it is indeed the question of mutual agreements of respect and how to execute this process. So how do I need to offload this stuff so it would not be directed at as the blame, as the conflict, so it would not produce the conflict to the other person. So it's just This is something that is happening to me, I am putting it here, and the other person also does not take it personally. It's like, okay, I'm holding this space for this. I know that this is something that needs to happen. We're in this together. Okay, so now what together we can do with this system?
Exactly. Two very important things you just mentioned. I want to presence them even more, if you don't mind. Is one is, what do I want to cause as I speak? Like that's the other end of this, right? What do I want to cause with how I'm speaking, or what I'm speaking to, or right? What's the result? And then the other very important thing is one of the flavors or the aspects that can really get in the way of very powerful listening for whatever container you're trying to create is taking things personally, right? because that's one of the very normal things for humans is to take everything personally, or anything that comes at us that in some way wakes up something that we personally haven't worked through, then very quickly goes into taking it personally, and you're no longer actually holding space for the other person and just maybe asking what's real for them, what's important for them. You're already in your head spinning with like what you think about this, how this plays out for you, right? Like, and taking maybe not even the story of this person personally, but the topic personally. So all of these different ways that very quickly, because of all the neural pathways that have been built up for all these years, right, just quickly check us out of the actual presence with the other person. So unless we have these very clear understanding of what we need, what we want to cause, and an agreement with the other person about how it is that we need to be listened to, right? There's so many elements. It's so complicated. We just started this conversation and already both of you had so many different aspects that your brains were trying to, grasp and tackle, right? And yet we take this very natural human thing completely for granted if we start talking about this, right? How these pathways lead us in different directions, and how a lot of times we are not able to cause what we want to cause or have the experience that we want to experience because we don't even talk about, oh, how do you want me to listen? Or what am I trying to cause with the way I'm speaking, right? Yulia, is something coming up for you?
I keep catching myself that when Irina was talking, she said, what do I want? Or something like that. But now that what am I causing? What do I want to cause? And the thing that kept like wanting to come out, but I mean, I alone won't cause anything. And that is also, to me, the super important part.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's not me. Maybe I'm initiating something, or maybe actually something is being initiated through me. And this process, even if I'm the one who is offloading or who has the impression that she's leading something, it's always, I think, being aware and curious what other forces are involved. And it's also not that person or not only that person in front of you. And so totally, this is so important to state the intention,
Mm-hmm.
understand what you would like, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, being in flow with the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes things happen, and maybe sometimes shit happens. Like the
Mm-hmm.
other person is going to be triggered in a way that they're not going to be able to contain.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like having it within the range of outcomes, maybe.
Yeah.
I alone cannot really cause anything. I'm there with this intention, and I know this
Mm-hmm.
person is with this intention. We have environment around us, we have our histories and a lot of stuff. And sometimes, if in the moment, even it feels like it didn't end the way both parties wanted, but maybe in the hindsight, it did.
That's a really good point you're making. And still, if we do this self-awareness piece and actually asking for what we need, it still brings so much more awareness and consciousness to the interaction, even though, of course, at the end of the day, we're interacting with way more than just this person, let's say in a one-on-one, right? We're also interacting with the energies in the space, potentially. Maybe even some woo woo aspects that you're not even intentionally present to or intentionally causing. There's so many factors, and I think often the for those of us that maybe are a little bit more detail oriented, if we start thinking about this, what we're discussing, it could get quite overwhelming because of how many aspects are involved. And I think that the natural function of the nervous system is to protect us and not to waste energy. And you could go into a contraction around this and say, you know what, I'm not even going to think about this aspect because it's just too overwhelming. There's too many factors and it just feels like, impossible to tackle. And yet I, from my own experience and my own experimentation in my life, and also with the two of you and in different containers, it really does actually, in a very counterintuitive way, create a lot more energy and a lot more opportunities for flow, for connection, for like a real grounded understanding of yourself. Even though, yes, it does require more energy and more headspace, more attention. There's a lot more that's involved. And yet I think that the effort required is worth it. Just wanted to put that out there. Did you want to add something, Ira, or you? Yeah.
It's like a gift, I guess, that you get when you put in so many things. And at the same time, those experiences where you feel heard beyond the words and held and seen, they're so rare, because a lot of things that we usually are not trained in and don't even know until we ourselves, on our own initiative, research and practice those things, many, but they create some moments that are really extraordinary and memorable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, what came to my mind when you said that there are so many factors involved that it's very difficult to to maintain them in the awareness, and to tackle them, and it might create contraction. But I think it creates contraction when we try to tackle all these information and decisions really at the rational level. But that is the thing, that this kind of process that we're talking about, it is possible when we expanding ourselves beyond the rational mind. And it's just what I remembered, it has nothing to do with the topic we're talking about, but there is the connection, I promise. So I remember that when I was living in Asia, like in Bali, for example, in Bali, there is a lot of traffic. It's insane. And everyone is riding the bikes, and apart the bikes, there are the trucks and the cars. And when you go to the big city, it's for the Western person, it's insane. It's impossible to tackle. So what I noticed when I was riding the bike in this absolute chaos of traffic on the road is that when you try to manage this situation really as we are accustomed to manage them in our Occidental culture, just remembering the rules, following the rules, trying to calculate in the mind what will happen, you get into the accident because it's impossible. All what you need to do is to be totally present in the situation. And then somehow it all sorts itself out on its own, with infernal number of elements participating in all this chaos, but it sorts it out. And it also reminded me that moment that we discussed recently in the episode of Trust, when when you gave us the stack of the questions, and all our minds were wait a minute. I'm not going to remember all these questions. So, like,
Yeah.
am I supposed to hold all these questions and the answers right now?
Yeah.
And then at a certain moment, I remember I said to me, okay, like, I will turn off my rational mind, and I will just trust the process, and I will just trust that whatever information that needs to emerge and to connect to each other, it will happen. So I think that in this kind of relating, it is the same thing. Like, the first thing that we need to learn to be is to be present with oneself, and then to be present with oneself and the other person. All the rest mm, is the matter of practice. Well, the presence is also requires practice,
Yeah.
but it's like the first step. Like, when you trust, when you know how to be present, and when you trust in the presence, all the rest unfolds somehow itself.
I'm wondering if maybe this is one thing that is important, but without some kind of a container, only presence alone maybe wouldn't really work. And that makes me think to also an past episode that we did. Maybe it was on trust, maybe it was on flow. I don't remember, but where we discussed how these two things, some kind of structure, but then flexibility within structure, is what creates these conditions where something beautiful emerges.
Exactly. I actually I agree with what both of you are presencing, and also I wonder what the sequence is, because in order for someone to be able to embody what you either are describing, I feel like there needs to be, like you said, a pre-practice, a pre-attuning of, again, all these different elements that we may not be even we may not have the information for. We don't yet even have something in our brain that's available to us to be like, wait, there's a different way that I can listen. Maybe there's a better question I can ask in the back of my head that will help create a different experience when I'm speaking to this person. So I think those things would need to happen first, so that there's more things available, so that when there is more available, then you can let go and trust that the best and highest can arise in the situation. But hoping that the best and highest can arise when you haven't yet even worked some of those details out in your own mind, then you're kind of tuning or expanding into the field without really having the ability to draw upon.
I'm not sure that I understand what you mean by these, like, praxis, because what I'm imagine to myself, and I might be understanding you wrong, that you say, like, I first need to be able to imagine what kind of questions I might ask in order for this question to emerge in the moment when I'm present with another person. And I'm not sure that this is the case. Like, I'm not sure that we need to be able to prepare ourselves mentally for the right information to arrive.
Really? Okay. Well, let's do a demo. Let's do a demo and test it in real time. I have a little
Okay.
exercise for us that could potentially give us a little bit more insight into exactly what you're connecting with. So before we jump into the demo, I just want to mention a few things, just for referencing. Like, where am I coming from, right? Where am I? What am I trying to weave into the like the foundation of this conversation? The two of you know, because you've gone through positive intelligence with me, you know that the saboteurs come up, and that is a way of filtering out information, right? It's a way that we could listen. They interrupt your inner ability to hold space, to be open, right? They really create a lens through which you're listening through. So that's one aspect that I mean. So,
But
for example, yeah,
maybe quickly to specify quickly that
yeah.
saboteurs are patterns of behavior that we have historically adopted and that have clustered into some type of even personalities or something.
Yes, that's true. So saboteurs they were originally survival strategies when we were younger. They weren't saboteurs back then. They were parts of us that were actually trying to really help us survive and thrive, or like just figure out how to be in the world, right? And then for a lot of us, we end up growing up, and those patterns don't really get upgraded. They just become even more ingrained and automatic. And all strengths are on a spectrum. So on one side of the spectrum, there really are talents or gifts. Gallup is actually all about this. But on the other side of the spectrum, they actually can become things that hijack our ability to transcend, to grow, to evolve, to really hold space, to really be present, right? So understanding what normal human aspects can be driving your mind, the way you listen, the way you perceive, the way you speak, what you're causing, just like breaking this down into practical things is really helpful. It really helped me to start to normalize our human experience and also see what are the more practical ways that um I can evolve whatever patterns that I had, let's say, by the time I was in my 40s, right? Is that a good enough background for some listeners that may not be familiar? Yeah. Anything either you want to add? No,
No,
just
no.
to set the stage. Okay. So these saboteurs originally were actual strengths, right? But they've become saboteurs because they really keep us locked in to a specific lens through which we are going to listen, what we're going to hear, what kind of information we're hunting for, or what kind of outcomes we're hunting for. And they really do end up being a bit of a nuisance, and they hijack our greater skills that we can develop as humans, right? Like that holding container, the ability to really be present, to not have judgment. So, for example, the pleaser, right? Those of us that have a pleaser tendency, they usually listen to what's right, what is the right thing, or like what do I need to say next so that they could really like me, that right? So if that's how you're listening to something, that's really going to affect both how you're able to hold space, how you're hearing the other person, right? You're not even really with the other person, no matter what the context of the situation is. You're actually with yourself. And not just with yourself in like this open container, that you were describing, but you're with yourself in a very limited type of filtered way. You're hunting for what needs to happen for me to be liked in this situation, right? Or for example, the controller, they're always listening for efficacy, right? They're always preparing to fix something from the way they think the world should be, and how things should go.
Oh, I have such a
Yeah,
person in my life. Oh, I'm
yeah.
so familiar with those conversations. Oh.
Well, you want to share how do you see this play out, and how does it affect listening, hearing, being able to be present to one another?
Yeah, and it's my husband. And my
Ah,
husband, he's like uh, he's so rational. He also is a scientist by education, and so um, he's very set on providing help and
yeah,
solving problems all the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So where it took us in the past was like, should just forget it. Okay. I'm just gonna shut up. I'm not gonna tell you anything, right? I'm just gonna keep things to myself. And then we did go through a lot of things, discussing expectations of each other and what we were looking for. And it helped. But still, like we always have to be present because we do have a default set of expectations that are so deeply wired.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, in this conversation, it's like really important for me. Do not dare to solve any problems or to make any suggestions or to give any solutions. Do
Yeah.
not even dare.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like that, but it's
Yeah.
it's a process.
Yeah, well, Yula, you're actually pointing to something that maybe we'll do in another episode because it's way too big of a topic. But the difference between the committed state of mind, that's Alison Armstrong, is brilliant in the way she describes all of this and how the dynamics between like the masculine and the feminine, but she calls it the committed state of mind versus the open state of mind. The committed state of mind, it's wired to listen for problems to solve. And it wants to provide solutions. It's one of the ways that the committed state of mind shows care. Versus the open state of mind usually is searching for connection. Connection cannot necessarily happen if someone is coming at you with solutions to problems. But I just want to share and feel connected, like we're on the same page, like you understand what I'm feeling. I don't want a solution. There is no problem to solve. I just want us to be in the same reality, right? That could be one of the things that someone that's in the open state of mind wants to feel as they're having a conversation. So that would really change the way they want the person listening to them, how they want them to listen. But these things we don't really talk about. We don't really learn in school that, oh, wait a second, this is something that would be a good skill to have. Negotiating the way we're going to listen to one another, setting the stage. What was coming up for you?
No, what was coming for me that it's just if we're talking about the preparations that needs to happen beforehand for for this kind of communication to occur, then definitely becoming aware of. So, and this is, here I agree that this is the mental process that happens beforehand. So it's like the information you might need in advance. So like there's some different kinds of maps that describe all these filters that we're putting into our listening, into our perception, how we're perceiving ourselves and the world and the other. So look,
Yep.
all the maps that describes all the patterns that prevent us from being present, because you said it yourself that if I am in my saboteur pattern or whatever other pattern we call them different ways, I'm not present. Not really, because I'm in this pattern of really survival, like in dealing with whatever drama or problem that exists in my head or inside of me, and I'm not aware of it, that I need urgently to solve. So whether I need to demonstrate that I can solve the problem of the other, or I need to please someone, or I need to whatever. But in this case, I'm not present.
Exactly. And add to that the expectations that we have about how other people should think or listen or what they should provide, because we think that that's how it should be. Allison describes it as like the perfect woman. The perfect woman has a way to do everything. Everything has to be done a certain way. And if anyone is not doing it that way, then that means there's something wrong with them, which automatically creates a crazy like I say crazy, but it's a tough filter. It's not crazy, it's normal. But it's a tough filter to be able to live through and still be able to connect to your true self, for example, right? Your true self beyond this perfection that a lot of people are trying to find, to manifest, to exhibit. This this perfect person, right? It doesn't even have to be a gender, like this perfect person. I should be this, you should be that, and this situation should be this, right? This judgment, like in the positive intelligence, is the three phases of the judge, right? Judging yourself, judging the other, and judging the circumstances. And we know from flow research that if you're coming into a conversation with judgment, that is certainly going to affect your ability to actually connect or have that interpersonal positive loop like the Dan Siegel talks about, right? So I'm just touching on all the things that we have talked about so far in different episodes, but really coming back to something that's, I feel like, so basic, but so not basic in a judgy way. I mean, so necessary to maybe put some focus and some care and attention into, something we don't usually even talk about, but something that can truly transform the experience that we are causing and the experience that we are receiving and the experience that we're co-creating, whether it's with another human or even with life itself, right? Um, so that was just, that's what I meant, Ir, is if you have, Allison actually has this whole model about how there's a roadmap of how you get to partnership, true partnership from her perspective, which I won't go into. It's really quite brilliant, but also really requires true study. But if the first point on one of her diagrams is acknowledgement, and acknowledgement requires for you to be able to grant something as real. Whether you agree with it, understanding is not required. Just grant something is real. So someone else's reality, someone else's need, whether, again, you agree with it or not, this is like kind of one of the most important elements in being able to have a true holding space type of conversation, right? That instead of judgment, you're actually going into it and you're granting that the other person's experience is real for them. Whether you understand it or not, whether you agree with it or not, you are granting. So you are radically accepting this person where they're at, how they're experiencing the world. You are radically accepting and granting their experience as real. As I describe that to you, what does that bring up for you?
Well, I read this article just a couple of weeks ago on Substack from someone who I actually mentioned already. I don't remember in private conversation or in the podcast. He writes about the philosophy on language. And actually, his article was about radical acceptance. And he's saying that the word radical has its roots in this radius that goes to center. And so there is a movement nowadays, and I'm going to get some things wrong probably because I didn't read it before this. But basically, if you imagine the circumference, and then there is like a dot in the middle. And so how we are trying to connect is by following each other on the circumference. And this way, like, it's impossible to reach one another. It's kind of like far and very long and inefficient. So radical connection is then, it's about going to the center, and to the center means to the core of makes us human. So that's kind of like, I guess, what's coming up for me when I acknowledge your experience. I kind of like, I trust you, I see you, I go beyond my human conditioning, which is a very big step. Sometimes it's a huge step. And so this is, I guess, where we meet in the center.
You know what else I'm hearing from you? Like that, what I was tuning into what you were describing, there's also approval there. I approve of you. automatically without needing any qualifications or pre-qualifications or like I'm just approving of you as another human with their own experience, and I am granting it as real. And so I'm able to really tune out of all of those automatic patterns, right? Which there is a consciousness, there's a prompting required to be able, eventually, of course, it becomes more of a natural expansion into this ability, right? What you were describing earlier. But in order to be able to expand into this ability and for all the things to come together without you needing to consciously be like, wait, what question am I listening with? What am I, what's the point of this conversation? Like where we want to get to requires some unwiring, requires a lot more time spent considering as real that maybe the way we listen doesn't have to be the way we listen. Like there are other options. And also there's other preferences that people might have. Even accepting that as real, that's already a step towards like whatever practice, whatever shifting is available. Does that make sense? What I'm describing from my perspective?
Actually made me to think of something
Yeah.
from my nutrition consulting practice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I worked with people sometimes like doing and analyzing blood tests and things.
Mm-hmm.
And often people would come for kind of like recommendations outside of the standard recommendations, because that's like nutrition consultant, that means you are going outside of the system, let's say. And so the problem they would have is that they would have symptoms, but then no tests would confirm that something is wrong with them. And so I don't know, I haven't been dealing thankfully with modern medical system a lot, but it's such a big thing. And I know in the States it's a huge thing. Well, in Russia as well, where it's like you are not trusted. If you are feeling something in the medical world that cannot be confirmed by the tests or found through the tests, oftentimes you're like, nope, I'm not granting you that acknowledgement.
Yep. That actually, thank you for bringing that up. That's such a concrete example because it actually makes me feel so contracted and so, oh, because I've had those situations where you come in and there's something going on with your body. You know your body. You know when something is not working right. And yet, because they're looking at it only from their filter, right? And their sense of however they're measuring your experience, and then you end up feeling completely invalidated, like as if you're crazy, right? You end up, if you're not strong enough in knowing yourself and really having your own back, which we talked about in some other episodes, right? And what's required for really trusting yourself, it could really send you down this downward spiral of doubt and self-criticism and judgment and really not a good outcome, right? You're coming for help, and you're really, this is such a concrete example of feeling so invalidated and not radically accepted and as real, like whatever your experience is, right? It really affects so much more than just even that one interaction.
Yeah, and it's kind of the standard. I mean, it's become the standard, and it's really challenging, I think, not to fall for something that is so ubiquitous.
Exactly. So I just want to bring another element in. So this radical acceptance, the first time I've felt it to like a big degree, a very amplified degree with a lot of people in a container, was Kasia Urbaniak's classes. And I didn't at the beginning even understand what was happening. What was this thing that I was feeling? What's going on? It was such a different experience with many women in the space, and I just felt so accepted. Like I felt like everyone was accepting of one another. I felt like everyone belonged, no matter what side of the spectrum in terms of experience and thoughts and feelings it was. And then I understood that really that container was about radical acceptance at the top. Like that's what we're coming in with. We're not going to coach each other. We're not going to give each other advice. We're just going to accept and hold space for one another. And that was a really cool, beautiful experience. And then when I was considering this topic, one of the other things that I was reflecting on was, for example, Sedona method is one of the modalities that Allison uses, and it's all about welcoming what we feel, like really radically welcoming the entire spectrum of what we feel in order to dissolve the resistance, which is what eventually leads to healing. And in internal family systems, something that I am learning and implementing now in my practice, is really welcoming the different parts that come up. Also to unblend and welcome and really regard as real that we have different parts that have different needs and different feelings in order to also lead to healing and like a more healed integration at the end. So like this acceptance, this welcoming, this granting as real. These are patterns that I'm seeing, like kind of threads throughout all of these different modalities, that can really lead to like a very different experience when we're relating to ourselves, but also another human or another situation. So I just wanted to bring that in as like one of the foundational pieces of how I'm regarding this topic, if that makes sense.
Pauline, sorry, did you want to do a demo, you said?
Yes, exactly. So can we do a little demo real quick? Okay. So what we want to cause with this little experiment is just to kind of have a sense of a difference in our experience, both for the listener and the speaker, based on what question is running in the back of our head. It's a very simple exercise. And I'm inviting the listeners also to do this exercise with us, right? So in the first part, and I will be timekeeper, I'll let you know when to switch the question that's running in the back of your head, and I'll tell you which question you could choose from. But do this with us, and try to track if there's a difference in your experience when you're listening with a more filtered type of question in the back of your head versus more of a welcoming question in the back of your head. So the speaker is going to share something that you've been working on recently. This is not about the story. This is just you're providing some context so that the listener has a chance to listen to you and also run one of those two questions in the back of their head, right? So please decide which one of you wants to be the speaker and which one wants to be the listener. Yulia, Ira?
I'm going to be the listener.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Ira, just think about something you've been working on recently. This is very,
For how,
it could be very bland.
for how long do I need to speak?
We're going to do this for 2 minutes, and for the first minute, and I will call time. For the first minute, Yulia is going to be listening with a more of a filter type of question. And for the second minute, you're going to continue with the same story. But for the second minute, she's consciously going to switch the question in the back of her head to a more welcoming question. Does that make sense? Okay. So the listener, for the first minute, you're going to intentionally allow a common filter: judgment, comparing, planning a reply. What are you going to reply to? Maybe listening for what problem is she having that you can, relay some suggestions for, right? Or measuring her against the perfect version of like what she should be doing or how the situation should be going, right? Just to pick a really good like filter you could like really feel in the back of your head and keep filtering.
You want me to choose one question?
Yes, just a filter. So either you're going to judge her or you're going to be listening for what problem is she have, or like, oh, is this really the best way to do this? Isn't there a better way to do this? Like something that's judgy, saboteur, right? Hijacky, like a filter type of question. So pick one, whichever one works for you. And then when I call when a minute is up, you're going to switch to a more welcoming question. You're going to soften your body, you're going to breathe, and you're going to silently say welcome. Welcome to whatever Ira is sharing. Welcome. I'm holding space. I'm welcoming all of it, right? And then you're going to track. How does it feel? Both of you, if you can, try to see if it shifts how you're feeling in your body. Yeah?
Mhm.
Does it make sense? Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you when to start. Let me just put my alarm on real quick. Hold on. My stopwatch. Okay. So 1 minute. Okay. So go ahead. You start speaking, and Yulia, you listen with a filtered question. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, what I have been working on recently was creating the short clips for social media from our episodes to promote our podcasts. And I posted one new TikTok today and one new short on YouTube. If anyone is interested, go find us and listen to us. But so the questions that were running in my head, or they're not questions, more like the tensions in my body, was that this is a very long process. It takes me too much time. And I was trying to fasten it up with the use of
Time.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. Yulia, switch the question to soften your body, breathe, and silently say welcome, acceptance, welcome. And then we're going to do this for another minute. Sorry, go ahead.
So, like, I was trying to make the process more productive and more efficient with the help of ChatGPT. But one more time, ChatGPT was not that helpful as everyone is trying to picture it. Well, at least in my case, it didn't solve the problem. So I was concerned that I'm still working on the first episode, and we're now recording. I don't remember what is the number of the episode that this episode that we're recording. But anyway, so the process is slow, but we have already 4 TikToks, and they're not getting too many views so far. But I'm keeping telling myself that I will find one day the perfect clip that will go viral and everyone will find
Okay.
out about our podcast.
Thank you, Ida. I also hope that will happen. Okay. So now just to debrief a little bit, Ida, let's start with you. And maybe you didn't feel it because there was some pressure in sharing a story, but did anything shift in the way you were able to express between minute 1 and minute 2?
You know what? I think it did. I'm not sure if it did because of this shift in Euless state, but maybe it was the case. Because indeed, I felt this pressure that like I really don't know what to say. So like this pressure, like I was judging myself rather than I was concerned, like, am I judged or not judged by the listener? But so like I don't know what played the role. The fact that like the process was interrupted, and so I just decided, okay, I will just go with whatever.
Mm.
Or maybe like if there was a shift in the Euler state, so it helped somehow to lighten up the field, which helped me to relieve myself of my own judgments. Maybe,
Mm.
but I did felt a little bit freer, like less concerned with okay, I will say whatever in the second part.
Yes, so I totally agree with you. You're bringing up some really great points. This was not like a double-blind experiment. So there are definitely extra things that were part of what we were doing that could have very well affected the whole experience. And yet, You're also bringing up that you had your own self-judgment come up, which is what we were discussing in the episode and how that affects, right? How we're able to speak and what we're able to produce. So it's actually brilliantly on point to what we were discussing today. And yes, maybe the break, the interruption also helped you shift, right? So beyond whatever energy that Yulia was holding. But all these elements are so important, and they're so much part of what we go through that they're still relevant even for this experiment. But so thank you for sharing it. What shifted for you, Yul, if anything, as you moved from filtering to welcoming?
So I felt that like I was wearing a space costume, or at least a big helmet, because my energy was concentrated in my head. I was trying to stick with the question, not to keep track.
Mm.
And so it resulted in tension here, but also in more tension in my body. So there was contraction for me.
Yeah.
And then when it was about welcome, I felt free actually even to drop the words occasionally. So to not to really keep track of anything. I didn't have my own question. And just to focus on my being present for Ira, which I experienced also as coming to the center. Now that I have, wow, what is it called, this word that where you, I primed myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming to the center. So
Yeah.
I did come to the center and I felt like this something warm and enveloping and holding it, yeah.
Yeah, you see? It really changes what you're paying attention to, right? And how. That's what you just described. And also anything that the two of you can reflect on in terms of the field, like the three of us in the switch between minute 1 and minute 2, anything else?
I really like, this is the thing that I was thinking about while Yulia was sharing her experience, that that is it's not the problem. But let's go for the radical acceptance. Like that was my experience, and that was as real as it was, is that I didn't pay attention neither to Yulia. I was just, it came to my mind that it is supposed that I was speaking to Yulia, but I actually was looking to you, Pauline, while I was thinking. And so I didn't pay attention to, I was so focused on like, what should I say, that I didn't pay attention neither to the field nor to the Yulia. So like, I think it might be interesting to do this experiment without setting so much like the goal, you like tell about what you have been working on, but just like letting the words emerge from the presence. Like in the same way that as we're trying to steer our conversation, that's okay, pay attention what is happening, and like whatever needs to be said, say it, and then it would be easier to track like how the field changes as the listener changes their state.
That's true. And we could definitely do that experiment. That would be fun. I would love to. And yet, everything both of you shared speaks exactly to what I was trying to highlight, which is when you're listening with a filter, right? It's, Yulia described it, it's like putting on a helmet. And then switching to another way of listening, even a welcoming, it still requires attunement if the point of the listening is also to capture the details. If you don't need to capture the details, then it's perfect. You could just be open and welcoming, and it's like a totally different energy. But what if you do need to actually listen to the story? What if you do, right? Let's say it's a meeting. You actually do need some kind of action steps afterwards. So I'm just trying to highlight that there are a lot of pieces involved that are actually quite important that we may not be consciously aware of, or even working on figuring out for ourselves and between ourselves. And yet we do it even when we just are, talking about topics in the podcast. We do these things in the background all the time. We're just not necessarily presencing what's happening, right? And we had this conversation about how flow happens and how trance happens and all of that in the background. We don't always presence how we're listening, what's happening. Are we being intentional about the way we're holding space for the conversation, right? So I wanted to bring that in a little bit more because I think it's super important. And Ira, you see, I'm having an exercise of saying something can also bring in so many filters and really interrupt your ability to be in the flow, right? In the flow and picking up the data of the field, right? So it was brilliant. This experiment, in a way, was actually perfect for what we were discussing today. And yet, of course, we could do an even better experiment next time, like more high level, and see how that works. What are we going to say?
I want to say that it's definitely a very good experiment, and it is illustrating that it's not only about how we are listening
Yes,
to the
exactly.
other person, but also like how we are speaking,
Mm-hmm.
from what place we speak, and with how much presence.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like in this sense, I loved the question that you voiced out. What do I want to cause? Aside from all like the factors that Yulia mentioned, that like we're not alone, and it's called the multiple factors that are confluent in any situation that affect whatever happens and whatever emerges. But still, like the mere question invites us to become aware of, like, what am I saying? Why am I saying it? Why am I saying it this way, the way I say it? Because it is about like we unawarely, unconsciously, we do want to cause something.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're not aware of it, it's really can lead to many difficult situations and unwanted results in our communications.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for that. And just want to call it out to the audience. For those of you that were listening along and even playing along with us, please check in and maybe take a note, jot it down. What was your experience like in the first minute? What did you maybe feel in the field between the three of us? What did you maybe feel in your body specifically? Or maybe as you were tuning in with Yulia or Ira, whichever one. What was it like for you in minute one? And what was it like for you in minute two? Were there any shifts? It would be very interesting for us to actually hear from you if you care to comment. If you're able to pick up on those subtle energies as well as you're listening to us and potentially playing along, it would be really cool. Please write in and share with us. We'd love to hear from you. And so just as a little bit of we're almost out of time. So to start wrapping up, I'm just going to say again, like filters are very important to be aware of, to pay attention to be even maybe intentional about, right? Because they can really change the way we hear and how we listen and what experience we're providing for the person that is speaking with us or what we're trying to cause in the interaction. There's so many different aspects. And just changing intentionally the question that's running in the back of your head can really create a difference, can really shift the experience for you and for the other person, for the field. Radical acceptance and approval just at the top, just granting something as real can be an extraordinary shift. Just that alone, I think I've certainly felt it when we were talking about it. I felt energetically what that could cause. I felt the two of you considering that aspect in your bodies and your energy systems. I could feel some of like, oh, there was a response in both of you to considering this as like, oh my God, can we just grant each other this at the top of every conversation? Wouldn't that be so cool? And the acknowledgement that could happen, and then all of the other things that could happen from that. That would be really on the, on the scale of evolving and going beyond our normal human conditioning and wiring and all of that. Um, and also just welcoming how it deepens the field. Welcoming whatever it is, welcoming whatever, wherever you are on the spectrum, like what that causes in terms of the energy and the field. And also we know that group flow can arise in many different ways, right? We've experimented in several at this point in our episodes. And sometimes it could be spontaneous and even without much structure. But how we listen really does shape the quality and depth of that flow. With filtering, flow can feel thin, fragile, constricted, tense in the body, right? The way we've experienced today. But with welcoming, it becomes richer, it becomes safer, even more creative, more soft, more inviting, more accepting, right? And just a last question for us to consider as a group. How do you see listening shaping not just the one-on-one connections, but really group flow, whether it's in teams and families and communities in our group? What's coming up for both of you as you consider that question?
You know what came to my mind? I used to do a lot of theater when I was young. And once at one theater group, I was present at the rehearsal. I didn't participate in it. Like, I didn't have any role in the show. So I was just sitting in the, like, what is the name? Like,
Audience? The
yeah,
audience?
but that wasn't the audience, it was a rehearsal. But yeah, I was sitting in the scene, in the audience hall as an audience, and it's like I had nothing to do with the show actually. Like, I was just doing my homework. I was studying in the university then. And so a member of the group, who was also not participating in the rehearsal, she didn't have a role in that scene either. She came to me and she started explaining to me, said, like, like, you can't do that because, like, even though you're not participating in the, like, what's happening on the stage, the fact that you are not paying attention, your attention is somewhere else, you are influencing the whole, like, flow. And, like, it doesn't flow for them on the stage because you are not paying attention to them. And I couldn't really understand what she was talking about then.
Yeah.
Like, I realized it only
Mm.
way later, that it's really like about the presence or the lack of presence of
Mm.
any group member influences the group field and everything what emerges and how it emerges.
Yep, exactly. And of course, some of us are going to be more sensitive to it and less sensitive to it, depending on our makeup, right? And what we're conscious and aware of. But absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a brilliant example. Yulia, what did you want to share?
Not sure I have something very smart to share. I was thinking,
Doesn't have to be smart.
well, it has to be
We're
punchy
holding space.
somehow, right? Because we have just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I was thinking that there's so many opportunities that being in a group can provide, and then at the same time, being in a group can also create an experience of being lonely and feeling kind of like an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the spectrum, it can create real bliss of
Mm.
being held, of being just like so seen. I've had those experiences. So this, yes, a very emergent field that the group can create. But at the same time, the more people there are, the more variables there are. And that's why group flow, it's so evasive, right? So people really want it, but then creating it is art, I guess, more than science.
And thank you for modeling that art, because as you described those qualities of what a really good container could create, I actually felt it in my body. It felt so good. Even had tingles. So it wasn't about what you were saying, it was about actually energetically what you were displaying, what you were modeling. And I loved it. And I was able to connect to it. And it was, wow, brilliant. Were you able to connect energetically to what she was kind of underneath the words?
Honestly, I was more engaged in the images that were coming in my mind while Yulia was speaking.
Okay. See, thank you for being honest. This is actually, to the listeners, this is something we talked about, being a little bit even more transparent about our own individual experiences as we connect in the space, and kind of plotting and mapping out all the different aspects that come together for group flow, specifically in our container and for us as individuals as we experiment and play together. Um, and also, I just wanted to call it out to the audience. Please picture yourself being part of a group and consider what could shift if everyone practiced just welcoming listening. Listening with a welcoming kind of intention and energy in the background. What might shift? Whether it's at work or it's in your family or in your friend groups, what might shift? And what might shift if just you started listening differently and priming and cueing your brain to something else, to listening, to holding space to something else. Um, it's just a nice little thing to consider and potentially integrate into your life. Yeah, so I think that we're all almost, well, we are out of time. So do you want to leave us, both of you, with any final thoughts about our experiment today? Anything even behind the scenes about your experience?
I love that we did a dance before.
Me too. That was great.
Yeah, but our listeners will not see the dance. It was before the recording. I
Yeah.
really loved, like, what do I want to cause? The question, grant something as real. And this metaphor of, of the circle, and the center of the circle is the radical acceptance.
Yeah, those were really beautiful. Yulia, what did you want to say?
I think I'm done. I
Yeah.
really love all the three things that Ira named. I think it's a good
Yeah.
list.
I also love the dancing we did at the beginning, even though that's not part of the episode, but still it helped to circulate the energy and loosen us up. And I just want to leave us with, that group flow isn't something we force, whether it's, again, group or like just one-on-one interaction with someone. It's something we allow, right? When we set down our filters, when we loosen the grip on the perfect version of ourselves or the other or the circumstance, when we listen with radical acceptance, when we stop standing in the way of the current of energy, of the exchange, right, in the field, in us, and we begin moving together, that's really, I think, the type of flow that could be the most free and joyful and blissful and connecting and maybe grounding, and maybe we could learn more. So I'm just kind of also trying to energetically model what I'm trying to cause. So please, to whoever was with us on this journey today, please experiment. Please share with us what you might have experienced with us, within yourself, in the field. This is an experiment where we really want to hear from you as well. We want to see, hear, maybe experience what are we causing for you as you listen to our episodes, because it definitely helps us to connect more with what we're co-creating with the field, and not just the three of us. Okay, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And thank you, too, for playing with me and for sharing so openly and vulnerably. I really appreciate it. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. How was it for you? We believe that the more people experience group flow together, the better off we all are. More connected, more creative, more alive. So let's expand the field.
If this episode resonated with you, help us spread the word. Share it with a friend, leave a comment, or give us a rating. We love you.
Do subscribe so you'll know when the next experiment comes out. You can also connect with us on our Life and Flow group Substack. We'd love to hear from you. Let's keep flowing together.